But we have a special guest joining me on this special broadcast. Arvind Panagiria is a professor at Columbia University. He joins me live from New York City. Professor Panagiria, I appreciate your time. I remember your tweet yesterday where you said you can count on Prime Minister Narendra Modi to remove last obstacles and on Indian diplomats to craft a communique on which a consensus will be reached. Indian presidency would eventually be seen as a turning point in the history of G20. You can say, I told you so. Till this morning, many observers, analysts never gave India a chance. What did they miss?
Number of things, Maria. First of all, Prime Minister Modi has been engaging with the rest of the world since he became Prime Minister of India. You remember how many trips he had made to the United States even in his very first year. And he went to every possible single country, So he has been building these bridges. He has really put diplomacy and foreign relations on top of his agenda. And of course, he had a fantastic team, So I've observed and actually worked with Prime Minister Modi. For 3 years, I worked with him and I've observed him for much longer. As also our India Sherpa, Amitabh Kant was the CEO of the Niti Aayog when I was heading the Niti Aayog. So I know the team, very hardworking, very focused, very persistent and very flexible also. So I think these are things that you got to know from inside, which is why I was confident that this will happen. Also I led I was India's G20 Sherpa for 3 of these communiques and therefore did the negotiation. So I know exactly what is involved in this. You have to be very good at crafting the language so that you can take care of the objections of different countries. Also, at the end of the day, it doesn't serve any country's purpose to come out of this kind of thing without any kind of document. What is most remarkable, of course, for this particular one is that it is extremely wide-ranging, and yet there are no footnotes, nothing, no separate chairs statement. The communique actually got signed off. So
37 pages of full consensus.
Absolutely. So I think that is the most remarkable thing. And this is not 37 pages of words. I think, if you read it carefully, it just has an enormous amount of substance and agenda to it. So India has made its mark. You can see in almost every paragraph, the global South being represented. And that was really what the Prime Minister actually had stood for.
Okay.
So it all shows up in the communique. His own, personal initiatives also, things like Life Initiative, the Biofuel Alliance, you name it. There's so many of the Prime Minister's own personal initiatives that have been reflected in the communique. So it's absolutely fantastic.
And Professor Panagiria, you and I have had long conversations on digital payment infrastructure, how that has completely transformed and how that is almost like a template that India is sharing with the world. Now that is part of the communique as well. Not much of a surprise because technological transformation that India has witnessed, particularly the digital public infrastructure, is something that the world can follow.
Absolutely. I often tell my friends how difficult it is to, for me to transfer money from my own one account to another account at a different bank in the United States. And how easy it is, for me sitting in the United States to actually make payments within India through this UPI infrastructure. So it is truly a revolutionary and costless, completely costless transfers, and in real time, the money shows up at the other end right away. And there are many different aspects of this public infrastructure that is still in development going on. So absolutely, I think, this is something that really lots of countries, particularly the developing countries, can use, but developed also.
And Professor Panagiria, the idea is of accelerating progress for sustainable development goals. Strong, sustained, balanced and inclusive growth is what India is talking about. And when we look at this joint communique and we are trying to decode it, because certainly it will be read multiple times, threadbare by all analysts who were saying that India will not be able to manage it. But coming to you for the financial inclusion, and that comes in the backdrop of what happened today. Prime Minister Modi taking the Gandhi idea forward with African Union inclusion. And sending that message that, without one of the largest continents of the world being part of G20, there cannot be development, in the sense that world cannot develop with Africa being left out of the picture.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, when the Prime Minister came here to the United States and spoke to the Congress, he had actually pasted in that speech as well, that please bring in the African Union into G20. So that is another initiative, and I completely agree that, after all, what is development without Africa? You've got 55 countries in the continent, and other than South Africa, they are underrepresented currently. So this was long overdue. In fact, it's a shame that for so long the G20 has been in existence and no other leader has raised that particular issue, certainly not with the kind of force that Prime Minister Modi did. So absolutely. So I think this is a great win for India. Absolutely great win for India.
And how are you looking at this announcement of India, Middle East, European corridor, which is being seen as a historic effort to cooperate on connectivity and infrastructure building between India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, European Union, France, Italy, Germany, and the US? How worried should China be?
And how worried should Pakistan be? You see, this is an absolute masterstroke and very Modi-like initiative, I should say. Really, he really is absolutely unsurpassed in thinking about these kinds of initiatives. And also for the first time, really, if I may say so, this is a leader who thinks big. One of the hallmarks of Prime Minister Modi's initiative and thinking is that he thinks big. I mean, it's reflected in everything. If you look at the venue of the G20, this is the kind of venue we have never built before. And likewise, the corridor is an absolute masterstroke. Diplomatically, it really puts everybody who is on India's other side actually on the back foot. And trade-wise, it's a big win for us, for India. It's a big win. So
and
more power to Prime Minister.
Of Global Biofuel Alliance. These are some aspects which are not G20 subjects per se, but these are ideas which are being seen as additions defined by India. So while we look at DPI, which is part of the document, you have other aspects which are not part of the larger, but it has to do with India and the Prime Minister's thinking and positioning. This is emerging nation which is saying that this is coming out moment. It is India's moment. It is India taking center stage in the diplomatic space. It's India taking center stage as a force to reckon with.
Totally. Maria, I'll tell you, because I negotiated 3 of these communiques in the early years of Prime Minister Modi's tenure.
Okay.
I remember that my frustration with our ministries used to be that what do we really want? The ministries were always very good at saying what they don't want, what their red lines are, and on the proposals that others had made. And I would constantly ask, what do we want? Right? And this is a negotiation, and negotiation is about give and take. And so our convention tradition had been of being defensive, I don't want this. So draw red lines, but never say, what do I want? But for the first time, under Prime Minister Modi, finally, we have begun to actually put our ideas on the table. And this communique, this declaration is an absolutely fantastic example of that. I mean, it really to me personally, actually looking at this communique is something that is quite transformational. This is not the way we used to negotiate, where we would put so many of our ideas on the table. And the Biofuel Alliance, of course, is only one of them. But, even the traditional medicine actually has come out on this agenda. If you see there, there is a line on recognition of traditional medicine, Ayurveda, etc., which is what, another of the things that Prime Minister has encouraged within India. So there is a whole lot of things in this declaration, in this communique, which are India's stamp. And this is why I said also, in my tweet yesterday that historically this G20 will be seen as a turning point.
Would you say that it's because you have worked so closely with Prime Minister Modi as the head of Niti Aayog in the past that the very fact that he had staked his reputation on the success of this G20? It's important for him electorally as well, given the elections are going to take place next year, but he also understands that it is about legacy. And India,
yes.
if India is being watched by the world, in the post-COVID world, India has much at stake.
Yes, indeed. And it is also my firm belief, really, that, Prime Minister has no personal agenda. His agenda is India. He really wants India to be at the forefront of things, India to be prosperous, poverty eradicated. So that is what, anybody can make mistakes and all, but as far as the intentions go, Prime Minister really basically wants India to be up there. And that is something that I saw it reflected in all sorts of ways while working for the 3 years at the Niti Aayog. But I've also watched him very closely, even before he became Prime Minister, and then, after I left the Niti Aayog. And he really puts his, not just heart and mind to it, but also a lot of his time to it. He worked harder than any of us did, actually, I remember, in the 3 years that I was there.
All right, Professor Panagiria, your final thought, your last thought on all those who were saying that a joint communique will not happen. Till this morning in India and the world. What do they not know about the Indian leadership? What do they not know about Prime Minister Narendra Modi? What do they not know that what has been going on behind the scenes? 200 hours of non-stop negotiations.
Yes. No, this negotiation is always tough, actually. When we negotiated also, this will go on. And I remember one time actually in Turkey, even after the first day of the leaders summit, actually, we were told to go back and renegotiate. So this is always a tough negotiation. I think where they, part of it, I would say that, many of the observers are entrenched into their own positions. And so they're looking at the whole evolution with some sort of, blinkers on the eyes. So many of the naysayers really are coming from that. And certainly there is a group of observers out there which would like to see India actually fail at it. Frankly, it's not the sort of thing I usually say, but this is something which...
That's really sad. Professor Panagiria, I hope we'll continue this conversation. Thank you so much for your time.